Hi, I'm Jan Broberg, your host and fellow survivor. Welcome to Trauma Interrupted. On this show, we name the wounds that trauma and abuse leave behind. We do the work it takes to heal, and together, we find the way forward. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get to work. Today on Trauma Interrupted, I want to talk about the aftermath. What happens after abuse and trauma? There are a lot of sources that concentrate on what happened to somebody. I know this well, but rarely do they talk about the aftermath, the flashbacks, the loneliness, struggle to find a therapist who understands, and simply finding your place back in your community. That part rarely gets told, and it's where so much of the true healing begins. Royce Rendon is a writer, a model, an advocate, and a survivor, and this is the first time he is telling his full story. Thank you for spending time with us today. You can find everything we talk about in the show notes. Okay, let's start the show. Studio today with Royce Rendon. Royce happened to share a short video about his story, and I would call it pretty viral that little story went out. It's not a little story, it's a very personal story. And we are thrilled that we are the first public platform that Royce is sharing his story, but with something so personal and with Trauma Interrupted being our new focus for the show. I want to just light a candle for Royce and let him know that as he shares this story, raw, real, without holding back, he said, don't hold back. We're all going to collectively send that love and that collective healing that I believe your peers who have been through what you've been through, at least to some degree, are hoping and fighting for you. So Royce, welcome to Trauma Interrupted. Time with Janny, time with me to tell me your
I'm
story.
just as honored to have a survivor like you to share this story, and this will be my first time ever really talking about the details, because the video that you're talking about reached 4 million eyes, but I don't think people had a full purview into not only the aftermath, but just the actual story. And there are a lot of lives at stake, and being here for me is really important. And representing people, even like Aaliyah, who didn't get the chance to tell her story. So I'm here. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And that's the shirt you're wearing, Aaliyah. And I love that because, again, we stand for other survivors, don't we? When we tell our stories, we actually are standing up for millions and millions of people who have kept silent, who have not shared. Their trauma has not been interrupted because they're too afraid or they've been shot down. And that's what we're trying to do, interrupt this cycle, this awful cycle. And unfortunately, at this point, yours doesn't have like a happy ending of justice. And we're going to talk about that shortly. But let's go back in time a little bit and start a little more at the beginning of your story, because I think so often the kinds of things you dealt with in your childhood seem to remanifest in our adult lives. Now, you look to me, you're a model, you're very successful, you're a handsome gentleman, and you have a lot of personality, I can tell, and you seem to have a very happy nature in spite of how your childhood went. So I know that sometimes it's hard to talk about that because you still feel like maybe this will hurt somebody's feelings. Your mother was an immigrant, had some addiction issues, and you had a very young father, and he did not know how to protect you. Can you elaborate on what happened
Yeah.
in those childhood days?
My mom came to the US in the trunk of a stranger's car when she was 16 years old. I mean, that in itself is a recipe for um, a very difficult and challenging life. And after losing her first husband and having my two sisters, by the time I was born, my mom was well into the throes of addiction. My sisters recall stories of her, and I remember as a kid as well, but she would like line bottles of liquor and just hide them behind the closet. And, and that's just kind of what I witnessed a lot of growing up. And my dad would sort of protect me from that, at least for me seeing that. But by the time that they divorced at 12, I didn't have him there to protect me from it anymore. And he, like a lot of other people, would say things like, "Well, she's your mom. She'll look after you. I believe in her ability to look after you." But when he left, it got worse. I watched my mom buy drugs on the street. I had to basically become an adult child, like many children of alcoholics. And I was saving her from suicidal moments and didn't have anyone there to feed me at points, clothe me properly. And during that divorce process, and once people around started to see what was happening, three people called CPS, and I had two social workers show up to my school, and that was the first time I ever experienced like this concept of self advocacy, but like not by my own merit or I had to like basically talk my way out of getting out of foster care. And that set off a chain of events where, having
Mm.
come from that dynamic where my dad wasn't protecting me and sort of prioritizing like, these new families he was creating and then my mom having her addiction issues, I had to figure out what I wanted my life to mean. And, ever so since I was 13, honestly, it feels like I've kind of been out here on my own.
I was gonna say you were only 12 when the divorce happened and you kinda lost your dad and his presence, and you think about what I think about at age 12 because that's what the age I was at my first kidnapping, and I realize we are so not ready to figure out what we want. We really aren't ready to go out on our own at 13. You know, how you chose almost to do it, but really it's almost like it wasn't a choice because what else do you do if you have, complete food insecurity, you're digging through a garbage can to find something to eat, or a school, lunch lady maybe is nice and gives you something extra, or kids that you, hey, could I have a bite? When you're hungry and you can't get natural normal things like that, and then at home things are up and down, and I'm sure the with children of alcoholics, this is really truly, a real thing. The trauma that they have to interpret and try to mitigate through is like such a huge mountain, and they are so you're so unequipped as a child. I mean, even though some people say, "Oh, well, at 13 I was pretty savvy." Yeah, you probably were, but your brain still wasn't developed, your emotional center wasn't developed, and here you
Really
are kinda
happy you
out on
said
your own
that
trying to
because I
figure it
think a
out at
lot of
13.
people who've never been through this kind of thing, they sort of they like people like a hero's arc and they'll create hero's arcs for victims. And I think the problem I have with that is that like there was no like
Mhm.
I didn't feel like a hero as a 13-year-old, and it set off a chain of to your point when you started this question is like, a chain of like traumatic events and just repeated abuses. I mean, it's because I didn't have the tools to protect myself and I didn't know how. And those are things that when you grow up in like relatively stable homes, you learn things from your parents that ultimately equip you to be a functioning adult. And when I was going out into the world, and by the time I escaped my home at 19, so like my dad remarried and there was a whole other narcissistic abuse thing that happened there. But like by the time I escaped like a second time, I mean, I was like a wayward child just going out into the world and not knowing how to take care of myself. And it took me up until this year, just turned 30.
You're still a young person. Oh, you just turned 30. Yeah, I'm like, this is what I think is so missing in the education of the public. Is like creating a hero story because, "Oh, that 13-year-old, he made it," when in reality, you just went back into one abuse after another because you don't have boundaries, you don't understand safety, you've never had it, why would you know what it feels like? You don't have the mental power to deduce, like, "Is this person safe? Is this what they're asking me to do okay? Do I feel comfortable?" The ego, the person isn't even really there. It's already been beat up and neglected and abused. And so people think that all of a sudden now you're a hero in your own story, which we are heroes. We have survived and we are learning how to work our way through the aftermath. And you used that word. And I love the fact that you're already talking about the aftermath because that's what people absolutely do not understand. There is so much aftermath. We have all these shows on TV that talk about what happened and saving the victim. Now they're okay. I'm like, they're not okay. It's just starting. What's going to happen after this whole person's been victimized over and over and over again is no joke. That's where the real
Absolutely.
story begins of healing
And I
and
think
what you
that
have
when
to
you
do to
hear
get
the
there. And it's
stories of
hard.
Maria Farmer or Lisa Phillips, who went to Capitol Hill a couple weeks ago, I mean, those are prime examples of women who, yes, like
Hmm.
at public face value, everyone says they're heroes, and they are. They are brave, they are strong, but they're also still humans, and they go home and they go to sleep at night just like us, and they have to learn how to live with the aftermath. And that word, I use it a lot because I think that when I share these videos on my Instagram, and I'm really nervous when I do it. People don't see me twiddling my thumbs and fidgeting before I share anything, or doing 10, 20 different takes because I'm afraid of saying the wrong thing or hurting people. It's like I feel like women like that, and I guess
Hmm.
I'm starting to feel this way too. A sense of responsibility, but like also this pressure to be like a good survivor. Like survivorship needs to look a certain way. It needs to look acceptable to the public, and don't speak too much about it because then you're coming across as negative, and then don't make light of things because then you're gonna hurt other people. It's just like I'm just existing. I just I want to heal. I just want to share my story. I want to share the truth. I don't want to hide it anymore. And I think that going like touching a little bit on the childhood stuff, people ask a lot like why I've been so quick to share like so soon after it happened. And that's why. Because I went through years of it already in many in several forms, and I didn't feel I had another choice. It was like, is this going to be the thing that ends my life? Will this be the thing that takes away my breath? And
Yeah.
at a certain point, I couldn't. And I don't think people realize that posting what I post is what's keeping me here. It's giving my voice. It's giving me I've always loved writing. I've always loved speaking. It gives me purpose, and
Purpose.
I would never lie about these things. Like,
And don't you wonder how people can be so uninformed and mean who would accuse us of lying or,
yeah,
"Oh, they just need more attention." I've gotten that one. "Oh, she just keeps telling her story because she needs more attention," you know, and I'm sure you've had people say those sorts of things. I had to get off social media when I first told my story, and it was on Netflix, that first documentary, and now I've told it again in the 9-part series, A Friend of the Family, and, I have the new book that I have up there on the shelf. It's Jan Broberg's story so that we could tell it more fully and people could maybe follow along with the 9-part series on Peacock and get it and go, "Oh, this is how this happens." And for you, you're doing the same thing. You're advocating for all of the other, little boys and girls who grew up in in homes that are not safe. Usually, if a 13-year-old ends up on the street or ends up on their own, so to speak, even if they're at home, but they're not there's nobody protecting them, they're almost always a target for abuse. It's almost as if we walk out the front door and we have some sign or something on our forehead and goes, "Hey, I'm vulnerable. Abuse me. 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 Violate me. Exploit me. Traffic me." It's like that's what it looks like somehow because the predators all seem to know if you're vulnerable. And if you're vulnerable, it's because something's already happened to you, whether it's neglect, like in your case, nobody protecting you. They seem to somehow know that you're an easy target, or at least even if you are a hero trying to be strong, you're still 13 in your development of your brain and your body and your nervous system and your mind can't keep up with somebody older than you, stronger than you. It just can't. Period. It's not because you did something wrong or because you weren't
yeah,
strong.
and
It's
everybody,
because
it's
it's
so
impossible.
interesting too because I'm really happy that you brought up your experience with victim blaming, or what you were wearing, what you did to attract, because I mean, women have been saying this for millennia, right? And then I, a man, go on social media and I say it. And for me, like I'm not thinking within these like binary terms, like, oh well, I'm a guy, so it's gonna have this impact. I'm just sharing my story. And what I recognized is that so many women haven't been validated
Right.
by men like me or by men who look like me. And I think that was part of why it spread across the world kind of retrospectively because I think people were just kind of taken aback. And I'll be frank with you, like the way that I look right now, like, you know, the couple of like shirtless videos that I did for people to like illustrate that like it wasn't what you were wearing or not wearing, or, you know, me being in an Aaliyah tank top right now, like none of that has anything to do with why I was assaulted. It doesn't mean I'm asking for it, doesn't mean I'm like, I have the right to exist. And if this makes me feel free and I feel happy, then and I'm doing something good in the world, I think that's enough. And um I think we need to give a lot more compassion to people who are choosing to handle their healing the way that they need to. And that's why I always make it a point when I share my story that people don't need like they'll say you're braver than I was. Like, no, I'm not. I I'm scared out of my mind most of the time. When I'm doing these videos, I'm like freezing up and
Right.
I'm like I'm very careful with my words. That like and people are waking up every day and there's bravery in just doing
Yeah.
that. And I want people to feel proud of themselves too, because I'm starting to feel more and more proud of myself. And but it comes with the same healing process that every other survivor
Right.
has to go through, the flashbacks, the night sweats. I've been late to work for, like, almost every day for the past, like, 6 or 7 months because of what happened to me, and, like, we all are handling this the best way we. Yeah,
Yeah. And people don't understand that. They're like, "What?" You know, people don't get that. They don't understand that this affects all of the relationships in our lives. Our human relationships, our work relationships, our relationships with ourselves. It's completely debilitating in so many ways, and the fact that you even show up to work is miraculous, to be quite honest, because the aftermath is so severe and it can go on for years. And unless we have, a pathway to, be on that healing path, to take what happened and mitigate the experiences and be believed. First step is really sharing your story. You did the first step when you did that video. What was it, 12 minutes or whatever long? It wasn't long, but it was long enough that you got a lot out. And I'm convinced that that is one of the major, major steps in beginning our healing process. In some ways, and some survivors don't like to be called heroes or warriors because it puts pressure on them. Do you know what I mean? But I'm at a point in my healing where I really appreciate it when somebody says to me, "Thank you for sharing and being honest, and your parents and everybody, and telling that story and how hard it must have been." And it was hard. And I got a lot of, not a lot, many more people who believed me and were supportive and kind. But what
yeah,
sticks out? It sticks out when somebody doesn't. It sticks out when somebody says, "Oh, well, what were you wearing?" Or, "Oh, well, how much did you drink?" Or blah, 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 whatever they say, or "You needed the attention," or, "Oh, why do you keep telling your story?" Or, "You must have made $1,000,000. Well, I didn't. I've shared my story over and over and over again, and I've never come anywhere close to making that kind of money. I mean, my book is up here. I've sold maybe 1,000 copies, and I thought I'd sell 10,000 copies. And, you don't know when you tell your story that you're doing it for any other reason than you just want to help other people. And that was my whole goal. In that way, I feel completely satisfied. And so when somebody says you're my hero or you're important because of these reasons, and it makes me feel like doing it was helpful, and it was helpful to me for sure, but it was helpful to others, and I know that is the power that you have. I know that there are others who are looking at you and thinking, "Oh my gosh, maybe I should tell somebody," or at least knowing that he went through it and look how he's doing and look at him. You know, it gives them courage, it gives them hope, and that I think is what gets lost when we are assaulted and abused and brainwashed and groomed. There's something that happens to our confidence. There's something that happens to us that somehow we're now worthless or not, we're ashamed. We have all those feelings, and you mentioned those feelings to me, kind of before we started recording. What are you feeling right now? Because, like you said, it was shortly after what happened to you that you started talking about it, and we wanna hear more about that story, more details than maybe
Do you feel
what you've
comfortable
told
sharing?
before, if you feel
Before I
comfortable
share, I'll
sharing.
answer your question. I actually told this to my
Good.
therapist because I've been in trauma therapy for about, I think, 5
Mhm.
months now, and a lot of the work, so we do dialectical behavioral therapy, so we don't really talk about, like, the actual story. We talk we work on processing feelings, and he asked me what it feels like as well, and I said, and funny that you said the word hero because one of my favorite Mariah Carey performances of all time is her singing "Hero" to a stadium of 40,000 people in the Tokyo Dome, and it's pin drop silent. Not no one's saying a thing. That's almost how it feels. I'm not comparing myself to Mariah Carey, but I'm saying that like sharing my story so publicly, it's really lonely. It's like a connective tissue. You're saying these words, they're helping people. You're witnessing healing happening in the world. You feel like you're healing with your own words and it's just coming from you. But at the same time, there's this spotlight on you. Everybody's watching you. You're being
Mhm.
perceived even more. And it's very lonely because I don't feel like there's anyone in my life currently who can fully fundamentally relate to not only like having gone through sexual trauma, but to live it so open, like publicly and openly for just for healing's sake. And that's been honestly, so that's where I'm at right now. I'm processing a lot of loneliness. I'm coming to terms with um my place in the world. And I'm just like praying to God that I am not misunderstood at every stage because my worst fear is to have my story, to share my story, um, and to like hurt other people. I don't want to hurt anyone in this world.
Yeah. So do you worry about, because I think it sounds to me like you still have a lot of, you're very kind, for one thing, but you also have a deep sense of an ability to have empathy, and I mean empathy for people that have also, that it hurt, it hurt, the neglect hurt, the childhood early abuse and neglect hurt, the divorce hurt, the separation from safety hurt, but I can tell you still care about those parents, those people. Is that true? Is that what
You
I'm
know,
hearing?
as you know, having it, dynamics and relationships are very complex. A lot of people ask if I'll ever speak to my mom again. A lot
They
of,
are.
and that's a good segue into the actual story because when I was assaulted, I was trying to
Mhm.
heal my family relationships. I was trying to find some closure, open new doors, have an opportunity to come to the table as a fully grown man and say, "Hey, you did like there were some really terrible things that happened. You hurt me in these ways, but let's." Focus on healing and moving on.
Yeah.
My father, that's a different story. I think my dad is a good example of someone who doesn't mean poorly and he's doing the best he can with the tools that he has, but doesn't doesn't know how to stop the cycle. And I think that's another reason why sharing the story is so important because
Mhm.
it's ending the opportunity for me to repeat the cycle over and over and over again. That's what's happening when you share it publicly. It alleviates that sense that I'm going to live with this for the rest of my life and it's going to hurt me, eat away at me, and forevermore, this is gonna be, you know, I don't wanna feel
It's that generational trauma, that fear of passing the trauma on to, the next relationship or a child or whatever. Because even if we don't abuse or neglect or do the same kind of horrible things that happen to us, there is a transference kind of in our DNA unless we get on the healing path and we actually do mitigate, express, talk about what happened and get the help that we need. And sometimes that's from a professional practitioner like your therapist who is trauma informed, obviously. How easy was it to find the perfect
I mean,
therapist who knows about
impossible. It
trauma
was
like
it
this?
was like, if anything, it was more of a crapshoot than having the option. It was getting, as soon as I was, assaulted and
Yeah.
I got back to New York and I went to an urgent care center and he said he would push me through sooner and we would find I just got put on weeks-long wait lists, and I'll never forget too, I was sitting in this cafe, like, gathering all this medical documentation so I could get paid leave for work, and I get this call from my hospital telling me that the therapist wasn't at work that day, and so they couldn't take me in. So I already waited weeks, and then now suddenly I'm like, and I'm telling you, at that moment of my existence, it was really I mean, it was a fight for my life. I didn't know if I really saw a purpose in existing anymore, and so when I'm already like fighting so hard to get the help so I don't like harm myself, then it's demoralizing. And by the time I got really lucky because a friend of mine, Jocelyn, had actually done an internship at this place called the Crime Victims Treatment Center. And she was like, I think you should check them out. And I just thought it was going to be another hotline, another crisis center that I have to like work with. And they immediately took me seriously. They took me in. They paired me with a therapist that they thought I would work well with given the symptoms I was having. And ever since, it's just been, I just feel so incredibly lucky. And I know it probably needs a lot of other people to hear, because it's not easy to come by good healthcare.
Right. Yeah, and it's interesting that I'm so glad that you brought that up. So this was something that was it organized, not the national, although there is a national suicide hotline, 988, right? That's that hotline. If you're having suicide ideation, please use it, because if there's another place like New York City itself, was that something that was
That's a fantastic
developed by the
question.
people in that particular area?
Like New York City has,
Do you know if it's
sorry, I didn't
do
mean
you know
to
if
cut you
it's
off. I was just going to say that
go ahead.
in New York, at least in my experience, there like you can go on like the government website and they have like access to all like a multitude of resources. Obviously, there's RAIN. There are, many that are like nationally used, but there are very New York City specific resources. The Crime
Mhm.
Victims Treatment Center was one that was sort of in hiding. It wasn't really in plain sight. And what's so interesting too is when I had gone on one of the main ones, I won't name which one I did, but when I reached out to a crisis center, they I was told by several people who read the messages that it was most likely AI that was responding to me. And because I had repeated the story of what happened to me like 3 times in the text thread. And I was like, why is this person like, why do they keep asking me what happened to me? And I'm like, I just told you at the very beginning that I was, and I need help and I'm trying to get connected to resources and I'm just getting these like very weird answers. And someone who works in the industry told me that it's most likely AI because they've been integrating that into their like chat systems and stuff. So I just wanted to share that.
Okay, now see, that really, really bothers me. We need real people. We need actual living, breathing humans in our support. Peer-to-peer support is like one of the major community is an absolute proven thing to help a person heal from, or it's not even just a, "Well, wouldn't that be nice?" It's like, "This has to happen. You cannot do it
And I
alone,
get so sick of
and you
people.
can't do it with a robot." I don't care how intelligent
Yeah,
AI
and we
is,
need people
we
that
need
aren't
people.
telling survivors that there's some pride in, like, doing it on your own. I don't want people when I tell people I did it on my own, I wish I had a family member or someone I could go to. I don't know if you've ever felt this too, but when you're going through the thick of it, don't you almost wish that there was like when in the movies when the protagonist goes through like some crisis or calamity and they have like a sidekick or someone who's like there as like their own like buddy detective and you guys are trying to solve this problem together. I didn't have that. And so many survivors are going through their own
Yes.
healing process without community and connection. And it's I mean, if you look at statistically, like it's a killer. Like not having community is how people, you know, I don't know. Yeah,
End it. How they check out, how they literally they're done. Like what you were feeling. You were having suicide ideation. You were ready to be done. It's too hard. I don't know what to do. And now I can't get some therapy. I can't find the right person. And you are
the
lucky
Crime
that you
Victims
found that
Treatment Center.
what was it called? Crime? Just so people listening that might be in
Yeah,
Crime Victims Treatment Center
it's
in
in
New York
Florida.
City
Yeah,
proper. Is that where it's established? So that's a huge so that's really, really so important that people can hear
yeah,
that. So if we go back to your and how it happened, would you mind bringing our audience up to speed on what happened so that maybe someone else might see the signs? I don't know. It's hard to say that we see signs because we don't, because I don't know. It's hard to see I mean, you don't know when it's going to happen. And so often people are just doing terrible things and you have no idea it's going to happen. Anyway, take us through that story
absolutely.
so we can
Before
hear
I
a
share the
little more
actual
detail.
story, something that a lot of people don't know about what I'm about to say has actually happened to hundreds, if not thousands of people at the exact same place under the same circumstances. And I'm not going to name the place at least yet, but I wanted to say that because for anyone that's ever doubted me or anyone else, when abuse is systemic that way, I feel responsibility to share the story. So I wanted to say that there's like a lot on the line for me and I,
Well, and this is what I think people also don't want to hear. They don't want to know, but in reality, people that could have done something, people who were seeing something, they have seen the pattern before. If it has happened hundreds or even thousands of times at the same place of business, they're seeing it. People in there working there that run it, that own it, that or they're complicit or even supporting it. And that to me is as criminal, almost as criminal as the
and
actual
you know what? The
perpetrator
internet,
who
I
did
don't
this
even
to
need to
you.
say where it happened because the internet is right. They already know where it happened. I've had people reach out and tell me they knew exactly where I was. So basically, here's the short of it. I had just gone through a breakup with my ex, and he sort of wanted to give me this sort of kind of like parting gift, if you will, of like community and connection, because he knew how, I haven't seen my sisters or my mom in 17 years. And so he basically booked me a ticket to go meet my sister, Josie, for the first time. And I wasn't ready to meet my mom yet, and I'm still not, but I was ready to meet my sister and to heal that part of my life because and something spiritually was telling me that it was almost necessary for me to do. So I get on that flight. I remember recording this video and being like and just doing like a little video diary. I've always done like video diaries and I was just like I'm kind of scared, but I'm hoping this brings some healing. She picks me up and we grew up about an hour and a half outside of LA, so I was like, you know what? Let's not go home right away. This is our first time really meeting. Why don't we just go somewhere relaxing, somewhere that feels peaceful? So I suggest we go to Santa Monica and we went to Bubba Gump. um, we had a couple drinks. We talked about the repeat of the trauma. My sister's story couldn't have been more parallel to mine. And we had spent 17 years apart. It was like listening to a mirror. Um, and we both cried. It was just holding hands, crying, having this healing moment. And after we left, I was like, you know what? It's like 3 or 4 p.m. Why don't we just like, I love like thrifting. We're going to like consignment stores and finding like cool stuff. So I was like, let's go like thrift shopping. And then we went to a happy hour. We got another drink. I didn't want the day to end. It was a beautiful day in Santa Monica. And I was like, I just wanted this whole journey to continue. And she was always like the fun sister. My eldest sister was like the one who taught me how to write and read and frankly, the reason why I can speak today. But my younger sister was like the cool one who would like, sneak me out of the house. And so I was like, that was the energy of the day. And I was like, you know what, Josie, your brother's gay now.
Fun.
Why don't we go to a
Nice.
gay bar? So let's go to West Hollywood. And I took her to the first gay bar I'd ever been to. Uh, years ago, and it was like I knew it wasn't like a great bar, but it was just sort of in the moment, like, you know what? Let's do it. So it's 8 p.m. We park the car, um, and we go to like another bar first, and then we go to the main one that I was just talking about. And we sat down around like I think 8:55, 9 o'clock. Um, I got us a drink, a tequila pineapple, and within 20 minutes, we don't remember anything. Well, I don't remember anything in the 13 hours that followed, but it took 20 minutes for us to get a single drink for me to buy, bring back there, split it. I drank most of it because I love tequila. And she when we had to drive back home. So the whole, point of it was to like kind of just sit down, take it easy before we drove back. And between 9:12 and 9:30, I I just my light just turned off, and my sister, by her account, like, collapsed on the table. She's never fallen asleep at a bar before. The bar kicks her out for public intoxication, and when she tries to push back in and say, "Where's my brother? Where's my brother?" I'm nowhere to be found at this bar, and, they call the police on her, and she gets put in jail. Meanwhile, while my sister is getting
Oh my
arrested,
god.
um, I have found out that someone actually me in the bathroom at the bar. This is separate from the story that I've shared publicly, and I've been really hesitant to share this part because I'm like, people are just gonna doubt me now. They're gonna think I was just, like, having a good time. I don't remember any of this, and the person said that he was literally watching them take my police away. So you're telling me that I was just at this bar at 10 PM, getting in the bathroom while my sister's getting arrested and nobody thought to do anything? Like, it doesn't make sense to me more than it would to anyone else. Anyways, according to my ex, who had my location,
No.
my
No sense.
location stopped showing at this bar at 11 p.m. I wasn't to be found after that. My sister was still in jail. There were no outbound calls or texts on my part between 9:30 and 11 a.m. the next morning. And I woke up 11 a.m. And I only know the
11
time because
AM.
when I woke up, someone threw something on my face. And I think it was like my shirt. And I remember being curled to my left. I was completely naked. My watch was missing that my ex gave me. And in place of that, there was like this gold and green bracelet. And then on my right hand, there were these two uh, rings. And I just remember beyond not knowing where I was, I just remember feeling angry. I'm like, why am I naked? Where's my like stolen property? Like, where am I? Who are you? What's going on? And he's like, we met last night, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, where's my watch? And he's like, you probably lost it before we met. And I was like, where did we meet? How did I get here? How did it like as far as I remember it, the last memory was me sitting at that table with my sister. And I'm going to share this part of the story because I think it's really important for anyone who has been victim blamed. Like, I'm just going to tell people straight up. My phone was dead when I woke up. I had no idea where I was and I had no way of calling or texting for help. I was completely dependent on this man. So I had to get in his car to charge my phone. And as soon as I'll never forget us driving down the street, and as I'm waiting for my phone to charge, and I'm trying to, like, ask him all these questions about how we met, and he just, like, wasn't giving me answers, and he said this one thing that really sticks out to me. I told this to the police, but he said, "Oh my god, like, we met last night, don't hit me." And I'm like, "Why would I hit you? I don't know you." Like, I would never if if someone were that incapacitated, I would never even touch them. And yet here I am in your car. And I was just so confused about it. So as soon as I saw, thank God I knew the streets because I started to like recognize where I was. So I got out on Santa Monica Boulevard and the first thing I said to my ex was, Jake, I think I was kidnapped. I didn't say, I didn't say assaulted. I said kidnapped. because I have no idea how I ended up in that man's
Mhm.
home. No idea. And I immediately threw up. He ordered me a car and he said, "Do you know what's been going on? We've all been looking for you. Your sisters, me, her partner. Nobody knows where you've been. Where have you been?" And I said, "I don't know, Jake. I don't know. I need help." Like, and so he Ubers me to my sister. My sister's like mad at me because she thinks I just went off and like had a time while she was in jail. And I told her, "Josie, no, I was kidnapped," and I just started crying and I was like, "Why did someone have to do that to me?" And and she and my ex were like,
Oh, I'm so sorry.
we need to go to the police." So we go to the West Hollywood precinct where they tell me that because I woke up in Hollywood, apparently, that I needed to go to the Hollywood precinct. So I went to the Hollywood precinct. And mind you, at this point, I'm so delirious. I'm like, I don't know how I'm still conscious. Like it's not like nothing I've ever felt in my life. I know what a hangover feels like. I have a mild hangover today. This was different. And I went to the Hollywood precinct, like they said. I waited around for 2 hours,
Yeah.
only for them to call the same two sheriffs that told me to go to that precinct, wait for them. As you know, with date rape drugs, there is a finite amount of time that you have to prove that it happened. And it was probably well past that point, even me showing up hours after
Yeah.
I had woken up. So I'll never forget this. Yeah,
Which seems all planned.
that's right.
That seems all
And
meticulously planned by the
when
perpetrator.
I was at the police station, I took a nap on my sister's lap and I thought I was dreaming, but I saw like I like opened my eyes for a second and I saw like the back of the head of someone that looked kind of like the guy that I woke up to. And I was like, "Oh, that's weird." And I just like went back to sleep. And when I woke up, I was like, "Josie,
Mhm.
I had this like weird dream or like I think I saw. Did you see someone here that like had that like looked like this or whatever he was wearing?" And she said, "Oh my God, Royce, I literally thought to myself that that looked like the guy that was sitting at the bar staring at us." Because my sister had said when we were at the bar, she's like, "Royce, why does this like weird guy keep looking at us?" And I didn't even look at the guy. I just said, "No, Josie, you're with your brother. And like, we're here together." That it was the guy. Apparently, my sister sent him like death threats because I got his number for the watch because I made him give it to me. Sorry, I'm like hopping around a lot because there's just a lot of like,
Okay.
yeah, because I want
Details,
people to
but
have a
these are
full scope and
interesting things
picture,
to know.
and it's the truth.
It's
So
okay.
my sister tells the police that's the man that my brother, and so they pulled. He was already outside at this point, I think, and my sister goes out there and they separate the two. They both like tell their whole account, whatever. And then the police pull me outside around like 4:30 p.m. to basically tell what happened, like to my memory. And I tell the police, I'm like sitting on the curb and I said, honestly, I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. I don't think like you're gonna believe me, but within 20 minutes, I don't remember anything. Um, I tell them the story. Apparently, they were supposed to read me like victims' rights, according to my eldest sister. They didn't do that. And they basically just ended up telling me to go to
Mm.
UCLA Health, which is about an hour, hour and a half at that time because it's like rush hour. It's a Saturday. Yeah. And my sister's also disoriented.
That
Mind you,
time
she
of
was
day. Yeah.
also drugged. So she's still struggling too, but we have no choice but to drive to the hospital so I can go get an assault done. Only for it to show up and have the hospital tell me that there were no nurses on hand, which is obviously not the nurse's fault, but that I had to wait 2 more hours just to see the nurses. So my sister and I waited in the lobby. We grabbed snacks from Target across the street. And when I tell you, I wasn't even like sad, I was just angry. I was so angry that I was like, at this place experience. I just wanted to go home. I was so close to talking to my sister, like, can we just go home? I don't want to do this. Three nurses show up. They take me into this like specialized room. And um, honestly, this was like the best part of that day because the way that they spoke to me, the way that they they took such great care and making sure that I felt safe. Um, and I asked the nurse, like, what usually happens when she meets people that go through this, and she said, a lot of people ask if they'll get justice, and she's like, I always tell people that if the justice system fails you, because it does, then I want you to hopefully figure out what justice means to you. And she's like, I think you have a purpose here, and I don't want to like speak out of line, but and then she gave me these sweatpants that I'm wearing right now, and I wear them all the time because
Oh,
and I remember when she gave them to me, I was like, huh, how ironic. Gray sweatpants are seen as these like sexualized things for guys to wear. It's like, how ironic is it to get this at a sexual trauma center after just getting, and just to
oh,
recognize that like me wearing these makes me feel safe and shouldn't make me the target of a crime no matter what I was wearing, because I was wearing a black t-shirt and black cargo pants that night.
they're just
I wasn't attracting anything.
and the thing is, that has nothing to do with the predator. That is where all of the blame, the shame, the crime lies. And yet, you, innocent, as a victim, how would that whatever roofie or whatever it was in your drink, how would your drinks have shown up with that? You never left your table. It wasn't like he had an opportunity
And
himself.
there are
Somebody
there
did
are
that.
you can read hundreds of stories online of people who say the exact same thing, that
And
they got the drink. There was no tampering in between them bringing the drink from the bar to their table, and within 20, it's always this 20 to 30 minutes, they are collapsing and don't remember a thing. A week later, I got a call from a sheriff who said that they somehow retrieved my watch. He wouldn't tell me how. My sister picked it up. I feel like maybe he was trying to get out ahead of it and just say that I left it there or something. I never take this off, ever. It's a diving watch. I wear it in the shower. And then my detective started working with me. She saw the story that I shared in April, and she said that she was proud of me. For a second, I started to feel really hopeful because it was really hard for me to compile all the evidence. It was like gut wrenching to like, I
yeah,
would just like sit in these cafes when my dog Marshall was at home, and I would just like be on the verge of a breakdown because I'm like going through all these like doctor's notes and like putting them in files and like, and just hoping that something comes of it. And then I submit all the evidence to her and this like giant file, and she reaches out to my sister and my ex and asks witnesses who saw me that night to get more details about what they were seeing and experiencing. And I had someone reach out to me and say that like we had met that night, and they said that I was buying 3 drinks for myself. Who was I buying 3 drinks for? And they said I was by myself, and he couldn't get me home safely, and just all these things that I'm like learning as the investigative process is going on. And I'm just like, it's saddening, but I'm just hopeful that something's going to come of it. And then maybe my story being so public will like light a fire and make people take me seriously, because I did all, again, procedurally, all the right things a victim blamer tells other people they didn't do right. And I'm a man. Like I'm if like I it's the sickening thing. And then last week
right.
on Wednesday, I was at work. My detective texted me and she said we need to speak. And I go to my manager and I said, "Hey, I can't be alone right now." I didn't wanna, like, re-traumatize any woman who, like, I work with that, I needed to go to the man who's never been through this before just to, like, be a stabilizing figure. And she told me that the DA didn't feel that there was enough
Yeah.
evidence. She couldn't really tell me why. She said that after all the people that she spoke to, all the evidence she was able to gather, that they just didn't think it was enough. It took me months to get to the point of even submitting it, and it only took the DA 3 weeks to tell me no. And, right now, as I'm talking to you, that's 5 or 6 days news, and I'm struggling with everything from numbness to anger to just crying spells.
Well, and I can see why, because so often people are like, "Well, did you press charges?" I'm like, "What do you mean? We don't
Yeah.
press charges. People don't press charges. You can bring as much evidence as you have in your story forward, but it's up to the DA's office if they're going to actually move forward. So people are so uneducated even on that point that they don't realize that even with witnesses and your sister, I mean, you it wasn't just you, it was all these other people in the bar, the getting out of this person's apartment. I don't know if you realized where you were. Do they know who that is? Or were you able to say, this is where I came out of this place 12 hours later? I don't remember anything from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m., or 9:30 really is when you start not having any memory, but whatever has happened, and your sister tells her story of being picked up and kicked out and police taking her. Well, what time was that? You can put it all together, and yet still, there's not enough evidence. You go to the hospital. It takes hours to get the people there. You're at the wrong place. You go to a different police department, and the nurses are kind, and you do the kit, and they give you the sweatpants, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna make it through this. On some level, you kept going, and then this happens. You get all of it to put together, and then they're not gonna move forward, or your kidnapper gets 15 days in jail or whatever it is, your kidnapper you know, and you just literally feel it almost feels like you're a victim again, because it's like you were and then the system itself feels like it just raped you again. That's what it feels like. To people that are out there listening that are like, "Oh, Jan Broberg, she's so overly dramatic." Well, I'm really not. I'm actually just trying to tell people the truth. And you told them just now what that process feels like when it doesn't go anywhere. And you know that your predator is free to do it again and again and again and again. It's just so heartbreaking, and it makes me so angry. I cry. They're tears because I feel bad for you, and I empathize with you, and I understand you, and I get it. And they're hot tears. I'm angry. It makes me mad. I want this to change. I want our systems and our legal and our justice systems and those people who interview us, I want them to all get trauma informed and then make this stop. Instead of just one more time, "Oh, well, not enough evidence." You're certainly not the first person that I've interviewed with this, but when you did it so quickly, you did all the right things, like you just said. You did everything that you're supposed to do, and it still doesn't work. No wonder so many people don't do everything that they're supposed to do, in my air quotes, because it doesn't they feel like it maybe does more harm in the end. I don't think so. I think it's devastating when it doesn't go forward, but I think what's going to happen, even though you might be numb right now, is that there will come a time, maybe when you hear yourself on this podcast, that you will be like, "Oh my gosh, how many people have something similar? Their story is similar to mine, and they've never told anybody. And how many of those people could be in your community?" Where I have an online community, and it's called Survivor Circle. And we renamed it from Thrivivors. It was called Thrivivors before, and now it's called Survivor Circle. And our whole objective is to give peer-to-peer community support and to help people on their healing path, on kind of not a program, not necessarily a 12-step program, but basic truths for healing, for getting through this and getting better and not passing it on to the next generation or to the next relationship or the next job or whatever, because these are the things we end up struggling with over and over. You even said in your bio that you had sent me that you had struggled, to with jobs and
Yeah.
and that all started even before it started from neglect and abuse as a child, and then that confidence or that ability, it was never modeled for you. You don't know how to do it. You don't know how to feel it. It didn't develop in your own brain, and now you have to develop it on purpose. And then you get a big slap in the face like this, like we're not going forward. It makes you feel like you've gone back a whole bunch of steps. But in reality, all you've done is you've shared and you've helped thousands of other people who will listen to this podcast, who will relate to you, and who might find, whether they find, Survivor Circle or something else to help them on their way where they can share their story, be believed, and figure out how to move forward and past it, through it, around it, over it, dig a tunnel. I don't know. But there are things that you can do and that you are doing. And this is one of those things. It's sharing. It's you and me talking about our stories. That helps us. And it will help hundreds, if not thousands, and eventually millions of others. So I just compliment you. I commend you. I see you. I believe you. I'm sorry that the justice part is not working out, because
It's
so
not
often
over
it
for me.
doesn't.
Hi, I'm Michaela, and I'm part of the team at the Jan Broberg Foundation, and I want to tell you about something we built called the Survivor Circle. So, the Survivor Circle is a free online community for anyone who has been through trauma or abuse. And it's somewhere you can actually exhale with no pressure, no judgment. It's just people who get it. When you join, you'll meet our community mascot, Dottie and Spotty, and you'll get a warm welcome, a walkthrough of our guidelines, and find your shared ground for sharing. We host circle meetings regularly, round robin and speaker style, and you can share whenever you feel ready. There's also the TIME program, which stands for Trauma, Interrupted, Mitigated, and Expressed. So it's a peer-led 12-phase recovery framework, plus workshops, guests, and of course, first looks at everything coming from the podcast and JBF. So this program was built because too many survivors are out there carrying something heavy with nowhere safe to put it down. And I know that feeling personally because I am a survivor. I may not be ready to share my full story yet, but honestly, that's exactly why the Survivor Circle matters so much to me. Because I don't have to have the words yet. I just have to show up. If any of this sounds like you, please come. Not when you're ready, not when you have the words. Now. Because you've carried this long enough and you don't have to carry it alone anymore. Please join us free at circle.janbrobergfoundation.org or just tap the link in the show notes. I really hope to see you there.
When my detective kind of wrapped all this up and she said that I could either appeal or, file a civil or class action if I wanted to, my brain just immediately went into my own, that sadness, but that anger. It's like, I refuse to sit down on the hands of my own story while other people at that same place are having it happen. It might happen to them on this Friday. The next, like, how many more people need to come forward to law enforcement about what happened to them before it's taken seriously? And especially watching the women on Capitol Hill go up and advocate for all of us, that to me gave me such immense, so great. I'm sure you felt the same.
So great.
Like, it's not even solidarity. It's just like, I know what they're feeling at a really core level. I don't know the experience, but I know the core of what it takes to get on that stage and to stand tall on the truth, despite the system
Yes.
advocating for something completely different. This is not, yeah. Yeah. And like, it's like the DA might have
Yeah, for silence.
dismissed my case. Fine. I'm going to make sure that less people in this world will walk out of that place and any other being assaulted, kidnapped. Like, there are lives at stake. And so I want to say this to anyone who's like listening to my story, just otherwise, there are a lot of people in New York City who think I should not be sharing this. When you hear what I just told you, I hope you do understand that it's bigger than me. This is not just my story. This is the story of everyone else who didn't go to the police and also left
Yeah.
that place after being 20 minutes just collapsed. Like, there are some women who you can find this online, who have left this place and they're like, I went to a gay bar and this happened to me. This isn't about my community making it happen to it.
Yeah.
Like, my community uses substances, whatever. We can talk about that, this whole concept of like harm reduction at another point, but that's not the conversation we're having right now. We're talking about people against their own will being drugged.
No,
Yeah. And yeah,
being
exactly.
assaulted.
And if I will do whatever it takes on my dying until my dying day, and if it like I will make sure that I get justice of my own, and I'm gonna make sure that things are brought to light by any means possible.
Yeah.
And when someone go ahead, sorry.
No, if I could give you a standing ovation, a round of applause, the whole thing and just cheer you on, that's why I started a podcast. My son was like, "Mom, you got to tell other people's stories. They got to have a mechanism to tell them and to tell them truthfully with somebody that gets it, because that's the only way to get the message and to get it out and for people to actually realize how huge this problem is." And this is brilliant for you to be here, for you to be as young as you are and to have already taken these steps is just incredibly hopeful for me to see that, because so often it doesn't happen. People don't tell until 10, 20, 30, 40 years go by. Lots of women and men especially don't, because they feel it's embarrassing or like they shoulda, woulda, coulda, and it's just not, it has nothing to do with you. You're being victimized. Most people freeze, male, female, non-binary, everybody freezes in situations anyway. And if you're drugged, then there's no consent. There's no possible reckoning for, you can't tell somebody that you had anything to do with it. You had nothing to do with what happened to you. And this is a very personal question, and then we'll go back into kind of what you want to do next, and because that's a hopeful piece to me, and I'm very
Oh,
much
yeah.
on the same page, and we're going to talk later after the
Yeah.
show because you're a writer.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's something I want to talk to you about. So, but what I wanted to ask you is, was it when you finally had the kit with the nurses
So
that you found out
the
there was more
interesting
than one DNA?
no, so
Is that
I
how you knew
neglected to
you
share
had
this
been
because again, I have ADHD,
in the
so
bathroom?
I tell my people who follow me just to bear with me. So about
Oh, no
3
worries.
weeks, after I was
You're all good.
someone I so 3 people from that night followed me on Instagram, and they didn't like, I was like, "Who are these people?" What is what's going on? Um, I eventually, touched base with all of them, 2 of them to get more information about what happened, and when I talked to one of the 3rd, I just remember, playing along because he said something that was, kind of weird. English wasn't his first language, and so there's, a language discrepancy, so I'm, trying to get more information out of this person, only for him to tell me that he's like, "Is your sister okay?" And I said, "What do you mean is my sister okay? Like, what and he goes, "Oh, 'cause, you and I were having, sex in the bathroom," and then he sent me 4 photos of me that were I was not alive looking. I don't know why you would take a photo of anyone in that state. It was so dark. And then he said, "Oh, yeah, I had to run away because 'cause I'm not from America, and the police were, there." And I was like, "That is such a weird thing to share." Also, if I were with a guy I met at a bar and I saw someone's sister being arrested, I would take them to their sister and make sure that the 2 of them got home safely. And that's what
Yes,
my story, I think, has so many more layers that I don't even know because I'm like, I would never, and this is what I want people to understand it. If you don't believe my story and you want to think that I was already on drugs or that my sister and I were too drunk before, how about this? Why would I go to a bar with my sister knowing that we had to leave together and just leave her for 13 hours? I would never agree to any of what happened to me. And I need people to understand that that's the case for every other survivor talking about their story. That's the real math that needs to be done. Don't spend time trying to map out whether the person's lying or just it's kind of in plain sight here.
right. And that's the part that I think, no, that makes such sense to me, because I'm like, why are we not figuring out with all of our medical and our, neurological and our emotional and our scientific and our brains and our blah, 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 why aren't we figuring out how to tell if a person's telling the truth? I know there all those lie detector tests don't work. Well, let's get one that does. This doesn't make any sense. I would never I just reunited with my sister after
And I
17
and I get
years.
that
I'm
people
not leaving her at the
there was this
bar by
lady who
herself.
commented on my
It's not
story,
happening. I
the
mean,
initials, like, photo that I posted before I shared the video, and she was like, "Huh, how interesting, like, this number 13 in your life." And I was like, "Oh, wait till she finds out that I was born on January the 13th, because I was born on January the 13th. I was 13 when the last time I saw my mother, and I was blacked out for 13 hours after meeting my sister, having any contact with
yes.
any of the 3 of them for 13 hours. Say whatever you want about like my storytelling or the veracity of my story because of that. At the end of the day, there's just no way, no world in which I would ever go to law enforcement to make this up, to lie, to like siphon money out of people for this. This is not about me trying to like get a leg up in the world and be like, oh, here I am, like I'm gonna profiteer. Like, great. If I make money down the line, like having my own show or, writing a book, great. I think survivors have the right to do that and to like do whatever they need to do to heal. And like, I would never lie about this. Like, I wouldn't put a stranger in jail for no reason on a lie. It's perjury, you know?
Right. No. Exactly, and that's the thing. I often say to people, I'm like, what does let's go back to Capitol Hill and those women that were up there, and I wanted to
Yeah.
be there. I wanted to go to Washington, DC so bad and be there somehow to support, and for the few that might know my story and the few that might know that I wanna go up on that stage and I wanna just scream up to the up to the White House, "This is the truth, why don't you face it?" And I just it's the thing that just makes me insane. Like, oh, I have this oh, they're making it up. They need more fame. They need more. Oh, they took my money, blah, 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 made it up. I'm like, nobody gains hardly anything by telling a story. I mean, I have made so little money in telling my story, and I've spent so much time telling my story. I mean, I've been on hundreds of podcasts and news shows and radio. They don't pay you for any of that. I didn't get paid to do my documentaries. They don't pay you for that. I've never been paid to be on a talk show or in a news article, but the hours and the stuff that I've gathered together and all and the crates full of evidence for my story. And my guy spent 15 days in jail. And then for the second kidnapping, he went to a mental hospital and was out in under a year. And I'm like, we aren't getting justice for telling our stories. We're just trying to make sure that somehow in this world, people finally wake up to the fact that we're telling the truth. And why don't we do something about it to save our kids, to save our little boys and little girls and young adults and adolescents and those people up to the age of 26 or 27 years old when their brain would naturally
That's right.
develop if they hadn't been
That's
assaulted,
right.
neglected, and abused.
I'm
We're
actually
behind
I'm in touch
anyway.
with Lisa Phillips, to be on her show and also like like talk about these things further, which I'm super excited about, and I feel really honored to be so believed by you both. But I want to acknowledge another very specific
Amazing.
woman who went up there on Capitol Hill. It was Anushka, and she said something that really sticks out to me, and I want to share it with everyone here. Um, she said, I know the facade and the shell, the exterior that you see in me. It's like how manicured it looks. It's all like it's conscious in a way. Like I forget her exact wording, but when she said that, it really hit me because the way that people perceive me right now, right? Like whether it's my hair, muscles, whatever. How interesting is it that this thing that I did that I thought would protect me in the world, this like mask that I built to protect people from seeing my ADHD or how like weirdly wired I am, this thing that I thought would present me to the world as like no one can mess with me kind of thing, is the very thing that I get blamed for causing my or that I'm getting accused for like trying to
Yep.
get attention for. It's like, I this everything you're seeing it was designed to protect me at some point in my life. And I want people to just look at me now and just see me as human. Just see me as a entity, not an object, not a sexual being, just a being. and I deserve to have a happy life. Yeah. And I just want people to know that.
Just Royce. You sure do. Yeah. And you do deserve to have a happy life. And I think oftentimes all of those pieces of the manicure that we put on ourselves is honestly sometimes because there's pain to hide from childhood. There's some things that if we can physically manifest it a certain way, maybe somehow that other stuff will be far enough in the background that we can succeed, that we can look right to the world, you know? I think that there's something to that, and that is a powerful some of the things that she said were pretty powerful, and my dream is to have like her, Lisa, you know, some of those, to have them on my podcast, you know, to actually be able to talk to people, have them tell their stories again, and have it not that they aren't telling it, but like for the purpose of helping other survivors tell theirs and know they're not alone. Like what you've done, just it's huge because you have a community of fans of even if you feel very alone in the world, like I don't even know who I would call to come and pick me up. You know, my ex, and luckily my sister was,
Stranger
you know,
still.
I was visiting her, you know, you just, isn't it interesting? Yeah, right? Exactly. You're just getting to know each other again. And I often feel that way. I have lots of people who know me and I would consider them a friend, but as far as like somebody that I would put on, you know, call, it's just truly my two sisters and about three best friends, and that's it. That's it. And that has taken my whole life to even almost have the courage to even call on them when I need help. You know what I mean? It's like we're trying to be strong. We're trying to show up a certain way, and yet we're still hurting. There's pain. There's things that we need a friend. We need somebody to tell to that empathizes, that understands, that listens. And I hope that I can be that friend, you know, to you or to many others who have tried to tell their stories, who have been misunderstood, who have literally been through the worst of things. And then those people that are in power, you know, who have the money and the power can shut them down, and it's just wrong. And I wanna be that person that they feel safe with and that we can tell these to the world over and over and over again until we
But Jan, that's why
we
your
change
show
it,
to me is so
until it
important. It's
changes, you know? But anyway, I've gotten so emotional 'cause you're just so honest and so real and so lovely, and I just love you.
I I I am watching other survivors share their stories, and they're just being completely politicized, and these huge networks and these things that are tethered to like larger systems are really just doing it as like a means of like political gain, or there's like, and it's not about the survivors. It's not focused about the survivors. And your show is giving a platform and a voice to people like me to do that without the extra stuff, because every woman that went on Capitol Hill deserves to not have their story politicized the way it has been. They deserve to be heard on their own, with their own stories and on their own merits. And I think that what you're doing here, and it's why you're the first person I'm sharing this with, because I felt like it was so important for me to, um, to connect with someone who would really hear me. But you've done so much in this world, so much good with what happened to you at such a young age, and I feel immensely grateful.
No. Thank you, Royce. I'm so glad that you felt that way, that you had listened to my show enough to know that I really am just so dedicated to telling other people's stories in a way that is so real. It's undeniable that you're telling the truth. And in the truth, I mean, there's a famous like scripture that says the truth shall set thee free or make you free. And I think that really is the case, that the only way we're going to free those survivors is to let them tell the truth and to believe them, and then take that forward into how do we need to change our justice system? How do we get all of our professionals that interface with a victim to be trauma informed? All of the detectives, all of the police, all of the doctors and nurses, the social workers, the therapists, why isn't, you know, trauma information and being trained in trauma for these kinds of crimes a must? It should be a must. So those are the things that we work towards within the justice system, within that awareness that those things need to be funded and they have to happen so that they can literally interface with people like you and me, Royce, and know that what we are telling them is true. I don't know if it's putting immediately there's a little, I don't know, is there a bandage size thing that can go around your finger and it tells you if you're sweating, your heart's beating, what that you're telling the truth. You're reliving the trauma as you talk to them. I don't know what it is, but there's something. We're too smart to not be able to find a way to believe the people telling the story, with or without. I mean, DNA revolutionized crime. It did in the 80s when it finally became an accepted thing. Like, oh, this is real. We can actually, that was like 1989. You weren't even born yet. And DNA became a thing, right? And now I'm like, okay, great. But if that's the only thing that we're using and we can't get it because it's been too many hours and the drug is already out of our system and the DNA isn't in my body anymore or whatever it is, and we didn't get the kit because we were too afraid. We knew we wouldn't be believed. We didn't go. That was, 10 years ago, but we still need to hold these people accountable because they haven't been shut down. They're still doing it. Like you said, it could happen this Friday night at the bar, the same place. It probably will. And it will continue to happen until we come together. And I believe that it's us as survivors who are mitigating our trauma, who are expressing, who are on that healing path, which is an ongoing journey, but there are many things that can speed up that process and get you to a place of hope again. There are. So join, Survivor Circle or something. Get the right trauma informed therapist. Get yourself to, whatever kind of ketamine treatments or whatever is calling to you, get started because we don't need a world of more, traumatized, hopeless, shameful, guilt-ridden people. It doesn't belong with us. It belongs with the perpetrators, and they need to go to jail. They need to be cut off their access to other human beings because they don't have any respect. They don't have any love for their fellow man. People that rape and harm young people, anybody, old people, it doesn't matter what the age is really, but it really bothers me when it's children, tweens, teens, and young adults. And to me, you're a young adult. You really are because you're already talking about it. So you're my hope. You are exactly my hope. You're a storyteller and you want to use that gift to write stories, to tell other people's stories. I want to partner with you on that. So
So they're really, really simple dreams. And as I was going, when I had just started therapy, I started to really think about how I want to see those fulfilled moving forward. Because I felt like once so many survivors had reached out to me, I was like, wow, my dreams suddenly feel more possible. I want to share that with people. So the three dreams are to have my own talk show. So to basically do what you're doing. I don't know by what like means or medium yet. I don't know if it's gonna be a podcast or TV show. That was my dream long
yeah,
before this ever happened,
yeah,
and I always remember thinking of myself, I'm going to know when the time is right to do that. It's not right. It hasn't gestated. It hasn't developed, and now obviously it's a sad means for me. Like I don't want this to be the reason. I want assault to exist, but I think it's a great place to start. And then the second dream is to meet Mariah Carey.
that's lemons to lemonade. That really is the example of taking lemons in our lives and making lemonade is when we take something that has and you know what? That does give us purpose. And so there are things about having been through what we've been through that allow me to bless the process, I guess, or to be like, well, I wouldn't be who I am today, I guess, if that hadn't have happened, but I don't want this for anybody else. It's not like I wish it on anybody, but it has made me in some ways who I am today.
Dream number two. So I'm a big Mariah Carey fan, and prior to the assault, during the assault, the aftermath, so many of the songs that she's written have saved my life, and a lot of people don't know her deeper cuts. Like, there's this song called "Close My Eyes" I think you'll really connect with because she talks about she's like, the first verse is, "I was a wayward child with the weight of the world that I held deep inside. Life was a winding road, and I learned many things little one shouldn't know. But I closed my eyes, steadied my feet on the ground, raised my head to the sky, and though times roll by, still I feel like a child as I look at the moon. Maybe I grew up a
Mm.
little too soon." And I think that's the story of many childhood survivors who had to grow up at a very young age and learn how to exist in the
Oh,
world with such, I guess,
yeah.
weighty matters. And
Oh,
Mariah Carey has articulated my experience as a survivor in so many ways. And she's a survivor herself of trauma and abuse and neglect. And I think that I just want to thank her in person and let her know just like how important it is to use these mediums and these arts to like connect with others and to bring healing to the world. It's like I hope to use my platform to kind of do the same thing in my own way.
yeah, that's beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, and then I'd be happy to interview her, just as a precursor before you do. That'd be lovely because I want to tell these stories and I want that rawness. I want to hear these stories from these people's mouths because I too have been so inspired by her music, by
What?
by, um,
Sorry,
uh, oh, what's the 1729
I'm
song? The
not
artist is
sure which
escaping
song.
me. That song. It's that song, like, I was only 17, you were 29, and it's a song about a predator. That song, like that one and so many empowerment songs that have gotten me through the hardest times in my life when it was like, I'm I Amy Lovato, that's who it was. Emmy, yeah. Oh my gosh, there's certain songs out there that and I'm terrible about who the artist is that sang them because I don't remember stuff like that, but oh my gosh,
I
songs
love
that
that you
have
have
just
one.
saved my life.
I love that you have that because I shared it one time with people and I was like, "Man, I think this is so important for survivors to kind of like have songs that aren't even just like sad and deep, but like also give you a little bit of like an extra push or hope. Like make that playlist, put all the things that you want on it. It's so nice to have. Dream
Mhm.
number 3.
Yeah,
I want to have a duck pond. Okay, so the duck pond story has interesting origins. So my not this last ex, but the one prior used to have a duck growing up, and when he would tell me about his duck, I just like it was just so sweet and sentiment. But me and him would go to these like duck ponds where you were allowed to feed the ducks the feed that they had there, and I would just feel so at peace. And our relationship was very volatile and at times, and I it just brought me such comfort, and I always like I just this dream just sort of developed of having my own duck pond one day and just having it in my backyard, and I can almost see it right now. It's like so idyllic in a sense, but like it's so connected to this feeling of peace and safety for me. And when I like in the weeks following my I sat in the bathroom one time and I did a
yeah.
video diary and I just cried and I said, I can't see my duck pond anymore. Like I don't know if I'll ever to see it. I don't know if I have the strength to see that through. And um, after sharing that video, and realizing how many people it touched, I started to be able to see it again little by little by little because I recognized that keeping my dreams alive means that I also have to keep the truth alive in me. And uh,
Mm.
I don't always agree with everything he wrote, but Dr. Wayne Dyer said something that always stuck with me, and that's don't let the music die inside of you. And every day I'm keeping that music alive. I'm keeping Mariah Carey in there. I'm keeping my duck pond. I'm keeping my talk show host there. My dreams aren't dying. I'm not dying. I'm gonna keep living. I'm gonna see those things through one way or another. And if it's on the platform and on the pedestal that I've built on my own, and it's talking about,
Mhm.
and so be it, because I don't want other people to hurt or suffer in this world. And I think everyone has the right to fulfill their dreams without
Yeah.
some assailant or, pardon the French, some asshole deciding that their right to choose wasn't their right. And I'm not going to let anyone take that away from me. when I started sharing my story and so many survivors reached out to me, I started to feel this like hopefulness about my duck pond still being there, and I started to feel connected, and I was able to cry. I wasn't as numb anymore, and I was able to feel again and to remember that my sensitivity is a gift. So once I shared the story, I started to feel hopeful again, and I keep those dreams alive inside of me, and I will see them through, and I'm not gonna let that man or any man that assaulted me that night or ever take that away from me.
Beautiful. And that's what we have to have. We have to have that resolve, don't we? Because otherwise it would be so easy to get caught up in the depths of our experience, and it's hard sometimes to dig out of the depths. We gotta try to not go that far down that rabbit hole. That those are tools of healing, where you don't go far enough down there to be in danger. Oh, I've loved this interview so much. I'm going to tell you what my dream is. I have several dreams, but because we're sharing dreams at the end of our shows on Trauma Interrupted with Jan Broberg, trauma interrupted, mitigated, and expressed. That's what we're doing here. We're mitigating it and we are expressing it, because that is the first step in healing. So I have a dream that I will be able to talk to Mariska Hargitay. I want also to have a show that talks as plainly and as well in a scripted series as Law and Order SVU has done for telling stories and bringing the victim and the victimization of forward. I've seen it for 26 seasons. They're going, I think, into their 27th season. And I have watched it from day one. And I have seen the language change. I have seen the way that they deal with victims change. I've seen the growth of what we're trying to do here in front of my eyes. And now I want that show that is what you want, Royce, and that is to tell people's stories and to go beyond their day in court, which often doesn't happen for a survivor, and go beyond into the aftermath of their experience and what happens after, and maybe flashbacks to stories and stuff. So that's my dream. My dream is to meet and talk to and partner with someone like Mariska Hargitay. That's my dream. And to have a story that could go for 27 more years that deals with the aftermath, with the survivors. That's my dream. And what happens after the incident and how they deal and don't deal with life, healing, and what else happens. So anyway, that's my dream. I want to hook up with her and talk to her. She should executive produce that next. I mean, she's been doing this for 27 seasons. So that's my dream.
Can I tell you, when she commented on that video, I freaked out because I was like, oh my God. And like when people that have already been so public about their survival stories just happen to see yours, like you don't ever post something like that and expect that to happen. But when like
Nope.
Debbie Gibson commented and like Rosie O'Donnell, I was just like, oh my God, these like powerful, beautiful women just coming forward and being like, I see you, I believe you, and
Yeah.
you were one of them. And
Mm.
I can't overstate how important you've been to my healing.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. That means the world to me. I started this for that very reason, is that somehow you would have the courage and know you were safe and that you could tell it in your way, on your terms, and that there would be nothing about it that would be politicized, that would be used or abused. I just want your healing. I want your story to help others and to help you. And it certainly has helped me today to be with you in this setting and to have your beautiful open heart just so open to this conversation. And I just know that this is how we heal. So in my world, the healing starts by telling our story to someone that is safe, that will believe you, so that you know from the get-go that it was not your fault. It doesn't matter any of those things that we've already said. None of that matters. You were perpetrated upon, and that is 100% on the perpetrator. And that person should be held accountable, and you should not have to suffer for the rest of your life. However, being adults, we do have to mitigate the trauma. We do have to do the healing. Nobody can do it for us. And yet, talking with you today, I've healed a little bit more. And hopefully you have too. And we'll keep going. We're going to do this together. I'm definitely talking to you offline. Storyteller, writer, wants to have his own show. Me too. Let's get together, shall we?
I would love to. I would love
Okay.
to. I want to say that one last thing too for anyone that was listening today. I know sometimes it's really triggering to hear justice systems failing you, and I know that can be an inhibitor to getting help or even just reaching out and reporting. I don't want that to be a deterrent for you deciding how you want to handle justice. I hope, if anything, it's just a window into the truth and a recognizing that we need to help change these systems wherever possible. And
Yeah.
I just hope that I can be another voice added to the conversation.
Yeah, and I love that because it's a great way to end the show to literally say to people, just because you think it won't work or it won't go anywhere is not the reason not to report because hey, I didn't realize that I as an adult could have should have. I mean, I don't should on myself very often. I try not to should on myself or anybody else. Don't should anybody. But I realized, and it was literally before I had a podcast, before I had a famous documentary, before my story was told in a 9-part series on Peacock, another documentary, 2 books. Long before that, I was just talking to people and I'd get invited to talk about, oh, today is, Child Abuse Awareness Day, or can you talk on the radio? And I'd just do anything to talk and tell a little bit about my story. But I didn't have anything, I didn't know any of this was going to happen. But I remember I was at a Walmart sitting outside with the radio station because it was a something about children. I don't know that it was necessarily but it was childhood abuse awareness something. And one of the ladies, and I was just sitting there with the radio personalities. I was nobody, except I had a story and I had told it. I didn't have a book yet, but I had told my story enough. And my mom and I were preparing to self-publish our first little book. And a lady called into the station and we were sitting out in front of Walmart right here in Southern Utah. And she said to me, she said, well, I wanted to call and tell you that what happened to me 20 years ago, I finally reported it. And so she must have been in like her 30s, maybe 40s. And she said, I finally reported what happened to me when I was a teenager. And I was so scared and I was shaking. And of course, I knew nothing would ever happen. And she said, so when did you finally report what happened to you? And I took this big breath in and I drew in this breath of, I mean, this was probably 20 years ago. And I took this breath in and I was like, I've never reported it. And she was like, why? I was like, I don't know. I just thought that everything that was done then was all that was going to be done. I never thought that I could say any more other than tell my story. And it was such a revelation to me. And then when I realized, oh, because at that time, the statute of limitations was still there. And in the state of Idaho, I think it was either 10 or 20 years. And it had been more than that. It had been definitely more than 10 and even more than 20 years ago that it had happened to me. And so I thought, oh, I guess I couldn't have reported it. But at that moment, I was like, why haven't I reported it? And I've said thousands of times on this show and in other arenas, just report it. Even if you're an innocent bystander and you think you see something wrong happening and you don't even know why. It's not like you saw somebody actually, the kid or the kid, digging in a garbage can for food or whatever, but you just got the sense that something was wrong. I'm like, go with your gut. What if that kid is being abused at home, neglected at home? All of these things would have applied to you. All of these kinds of things. What if you had that little glimmer of, why is this kid outside, 90% of the time, not in the house, and, or something, anything that you see, you can report it. And I had a police officer tell me not that many years ago, this is after the documentary came out in 2019, and I was speaking at like a chamber of commerce or something. And one of the questions was about reporting. And these 2 detectives were in the room at the chamber meeting because I was going to be there speaking and they wanted to come and learn if they could learn anything from me. So it was really flattering to me that they came because I was speaking there. And this lady asked this question, and the police officers, both of them, it was a male and a female, and they were partners, a man and a woman. And they said, In our police here, in our department, we want people to report even if they've never seen anything, but they've felt something was wrong. Because if they report like the name of the child or the name of the adult that they felt acted weird towards a child in the park or at school or something, and they report it and there's a name in a file, we may not be able to do anything with it then. But what happens when another person reports something strange or something that did happen to their kid, and it's the second time that person's name has come up or the child's name has come up? Now we're going to go, okay, we need to look into this. And he said, so it's really important that people just report, even if nothing ever does happen or can happen at that moment. That name, that story, that young person, that victim's name and who they think is still in a file somewhere. It's still sitting there, even if they didn't have enough evidence to go forward. So what you did is really important.
Well, I'd like to think that if Aaliyah were still alive today, she would appreciate knowing that her who abused her at 14 years old is now in jail, and R. Kelly isn't to touch another woman like that ever again. But you're right. It took hers was like one of the first to come out about these things, and people started to realize, oh, R. Kelly has this proclivity for little girls. And then, but it took the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth reporting for the police to actually do something about it. And I just think that's why it's so instrumental, because even if, I might have to deal with like the loneliness on a personal level, I would rather less people be hurt and harmed by an abuser than keep it to myself.
Yeah, and that really is the key. That's why we're talking, why we're saying it all out loud in no uncertain terms, not holding back, is because people have to hear the stories. And that is true. You think about it. You think somebody, so famous as he was, and I watched that documentary, and I was screaming at the TV because I'm so angry, and I'm like, why did it take this many people and this long? But it's because people are scared or they don't know. It's not like they might know it's abuse, but there's also this twisted sense of what is their reality? How has their reality been shaped? I lived in an alternate reality. I didn't know that what this guy was doing, and I didn't know he was brainwashing me for one thing, but I didn't know. And they didn't completely know. And it was only after one person said, this is not right, this is enough, that the next person would come forward, and the next and the next. And we need that hashtag movement to happen so that we can get something done. So you're reporting, telling your story, it's so important. And I just cannot thank you enough for being who you are. I adore you. I love you. I want you to be in my world for the rest of my life. And I want us to be able to work together. And I know that in that process, there will be ups and downs. I've had a lot of those in my healing journey, and you will too. But man, are you already on the path? And I'm just so grateful that I got to meet you and talk to you and hear your story from your mouth, with your words. Thank you so much, Royce.
You're a welcome part of my life, and I am honored to be a part of yours in any way. Thank you for believing me and giving me a chance to use words and language as a more meaningful tool in this world. And that's all I could ever ask for from anyone. Thank you.
Thank you. And my candle is still glowing for you, and it will be forever. And so you reach out if you need anything, and if there's any way that I can support you in any way, I would happily do it. And I want everybody out there listening to know that here's another moment where our trauma has been interrupted, mitigated, and expressed. Thank you for spending time with me, your host, Jan Broberg, and your friend. Thank you, Royce.
Anytime.
Hey everyone, my name is Austin Tanner, and I'm Jan's son and the executive producer of this podcast. On behalf of our whole team, we want to thank you for listening to our show today. These conversations are not always easy, and we don't take it lightly that you stayed with us all the way through. Everything you heard today can be found in our show notes. You'll find links to our website, janbrobergfoundation.org, our newsletter, and how to join our free online community, The Survivor Circle. This is where the work continues between episodes, and we hope to see you there. Thank you so much for listening today and for being part of our survivor-led movement. Until next time, over and out on 2.